Hello CompuMove friends, welcome to a CompuMove training video. What we have for you today is a look at CompuMove's job scheduling and dispatch functions. First, we'll take a look at a fully scheduled job. We'll look at a job work event with assigned resources. And then we'll look at a related job dispatch ticket or work order form. Then we'll go to the scheduling module and look at that same event from the views that are available to us there. Then we'll create a new job work event and set the event type and date. And then we'll set a start time and duration for that event. And then we'll look at assigning resources from within the job. Next, we'll manage an event from the scheduling module. We'll choose events from the job event list and assign using drag and drop resources for that event. Finally, we'll look at some additional functions. We'll look at work event memos. We'll look at reassigning resources. We'll look at managing resource availability. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started. First, we'll take a look at a job that's already got a work event scheduled. You can see we're here on the home screen, and in the work activity area, you can see we've got an event that we'll be focusing on, and that's the packing event right there. And you can see it's got an event type, it's got a date, it's got a time, it's got a duration, and it's got a number of trucks and a number of workers. And so let's take a look at the detail behind that. There's two ways to do that. If you go to the All Events view, it'll give you more of a big picture view of everything that's happening on this job. Or if we click into an individual work event, it'll take us to the event editor behind that. In fact, you can get to the event editor by going to the All Events view, where you'll see all the events for this job. In this case, this is what we've got, and it shows the assigned resources. But if I double click on this right here, it'll take me to the event editor, which is exactly what will happen if I double click here on the individual work activity line item. So let's double click on that, and it brings us into the event editor. And you can see that there's a start time and a duration. And if I go to the resources tab, you can see that it gives me a summary up at the top. It shows me I've got 2 workers assigned and 1 piece of equipment assigned. And then there's a separate tab below for each one. So I go to that worker resources tab, it shows me. Now, if there are multiple jobs on this day, it's going to list all of them and show the ones that are assigned. But the ones that are assigned to this job are highlighted in the blue. And then so below that, or on the next tab over, we've got the equipment resource tab, and it's the same situation. Pack van 1 is assigned. And so it's got the start time, it's got the duration, it shows the location, it shows the number of workers, the number of pieces of equipment, and so on. So we've got, at this point, a fully dispatched work event. So with that information in hand, we can close out the event editor, we can go to the print menu, and we can say that we want to print a dispatch ticket. So I'm going to go ahead and say display, and what I get is a completed dispatch ticket for this day. And if we look up in the upper box up here, it shows us the event type, the date, the start time. Here it shows the duration, the number of trucks, the number of workers. If I had had a weight entered for this event, it would show. And then below that, it shows the assigned resources. In this case, as we saw on the screen, Pack Van 1, John Adams is our driver, Charlie Brown is our helper. And then you can also see that we've got work event memos down here, and we'll take a closer look at that. If there's multiple events scheduled for this job, they will show here in the work event summary, so people can get a big picture view of the whole scope of this job. And then obviously, of course, if there's extra stops and that information, that will show accordingly. So now that we've seen all of that, let's close out of this job and let's take a look at this from the perspective of the major scheduling screen, where we can look at a group of jobs together and start working them. In order to do that, I'm going to go to the work menu and I'm going to open up scheduling. We'll make it a little bigger here on our screen because when it comes to dispatch, more screen is always better. And you can see across the top of the scheduling screen, we have this row of buttons. And so this group of buttons are day activity buttons, meaning different looks of a single day. Then moving over to the right, we've got a couple buttons for a week view, then we've got a month view, and then finally on the end, a trip timeline view. The trip timeline view is really the subject of another video, so we will not be looking at that today. So here we are on the job day function, and as we move between the different views, there's a couple of important buttons, and let's review what they do. So right here, I've got a button that says Detail and a button that says Sort. And the function of these buttons will change depending on which particular view I'm in. So right now I'm in the job day. If I press the Detail button, it will cycle through 3 levels of detail. At the lowest level, it shows 1 line per shipment, so you can get a big picture view of your day. At the second level, it will show your lead resource only, your driver or whoever's at the highest classification for this job, as well as revealing telephone numbers and street addresses. And then the third level of detail will show all the resources, no matter how many they are, and then also more room for event memos. Now here, the sort order will only work if you've got multiple divisions. So in this case, I've got 1 company here. But if you are a 2 or a 3 or a 10 division company, then what the sort order button in this view will do is allow you to group your shipments either chronologically across all of your divisions, all of your branches, or cluster them into individual groups. If we move on to the job timeline view, the detail function does a similar thing, where we cycle through a couple levels of detail, and then here again the sort order is for division sorting. If we go to the worker day and the equipment day, then things work a little bit differently. Here in the worker day view, the detail view will expand and contract the amount of detail that I've got, but then what the sort order will do is change the presentation order, because if you look over here on the left in the worker day view, you can see that the worker types are clustered according to the classification. So the driver is the higher level of classification, and so they are together and then they're alphabetized, and then the helpers are below similarly. But if we change the sort view, then what it'll do is cluster together according to who's on the same shipment. So if you've got a driver and a helper on one shipment and then other people on another shipment, then you'll see them grouped together according to shipment. Another thing that happens is if you sit over one of these work events, you get what's a hover preview, which means as you move across shipments, this will appear, and within it you've got the ability to dive to another level of detail. You can open up the job record, or if you want these hover previews to go away, you can click that button, and for the duration of this session it'll just stop doing that. We'll close that out. Let's go to the equipment day. Works exactly the same as the worker day does in terms of if you have multiple pieces of equipment assigned to a shipment, it'll group them together, or it'll put them in alphabetical order, and that'll be toggled according to the sort button. And then the detail button does the same thing where it cycles through the different levels of detail. One of the other things you see on the worker day and the equipment day is a running day count. If you look here, it shows because there were 2 men assigned to this shipment. Starting at 8 in the morning, I've got 2 guys in the field until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And you see the exact same thing on the equipment day, except of course, it's counting pieces of equipment. If we go over to the next tab, it's the sales day. And so this is a split screen. Up at the top, it shows timeline view. We've got an estimate scheduled here. It shows the address information, obviously, and a place for notes to go. And then down below, we've got a table view of the sales activity, meaning estimates or surveys that are scheduled for the day. And then the sort order view will cycle the table down below according to who the salesperson is. So if Dave the salesman's got 3 estimates, if you're in the one sort view, they'll be ordered chronologically, and then the alternate sort view will group them according to who the salesperson is. So the next up is the beginning of the week views. So I'm going to hit the job week button, And now I'm looking at a week, depending on the week that I'm sitting on. And so in the same way, the detail view button cycles through the levels of detail, and then the sort order view will sort according to division. And then in the same way, we've got the sales week view, cycle through the details, sort now according by salesperson, and also by division, but primarily by salesperson. And then finally, the last view is the calendar view. And here in the calendar view, the detail button causes this day summary below to be hidden or revealed. So if I click on another day, it gives me the work events that I have on my calendar for that day. If I press the detail button, then that goes away and I'm just looking at the calendar view. So now that we've got an idea of where we'd like to be once a work event has been set up, let's take a look at creating a new one. I've got this Dave Smith job up in front of me, and as you can see, it's got two work events showing in the work activity area. The first is the packing event that we were just working on, and the next is this local move event. Now, a question we might ask is, how did these events get to be here in the first place? There is a video about creating and attaching default work events. So this particular job type has packing and local move as default events, meaning that every time a new record is started, whether it's a quote or a job, it's going to have these two events on it. If I wish to add an additional event, I could click the Add Event button and pull down the list and choose from the available group of events. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and go with the event that is already here, and that is the local move event. Now you can see that this is a default event, but it's undated. That's why it has the 0 date on it. So if I click anywhere in these columns between there and there, I'm going to land in the event editor. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll just click on the date column, and then that lands me on the calendar. And so this is the first layer of event date assignment. And that is, what day do you want this event to be happening? So I'm going to click the 6th. I've got a couple choices here. I could click the 6th and then I could say assign day, or I could just double click and it would accomplish the same thing. So when I do that, I land inside the event editor. And here in the event editor, we can go and do all the other things that we might want to assign to this event. A start time, a duration, trucks, workers, pounds. We can also manipulate the location of this event. Now, an origin classification event, pickup or packing, is going to be at the origin address. Something that's a delivery classification of event, delivery out of storage or hauling delivery, that's going to be by definition associated with the destination address. And then of course there's the possibility of extra stops, which could be somewhere else. There's a separate video for the extra stop events. We're not going to go any further into that here. But what I'm interested in doing right now is just getting this event on the date. So right now I've got a date selected. If I don't like it at this point, I could pick change date and then go back to the calendar and try again. But otherwise, all I'm going to do is just hit save. And so what that will do is save this work event on the date and nothing else. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then now on the local move event, you can see it says 10/6. So at this point, that might be all I want to do. Certainly, if you were doing an estimate for somebody and you just wanted to get their proposed move dates down, you'd probably stop right there. You wouldn't be too concerned about the specific details other than what day they're interested in. But now what I want to go is I want to go to the next level. So I'm going to click on this again, and we're going to get the rest of these fields populated. So I'm going to click on the date event again. Now I'm into the event editor. There's a variety of things I can do here. If I wanted to switch to an alternate event type, I could do so. If I wanted to switch to another location, I could do so. If I had multiple divisions, I could cycle through them. But I'm interested in just staying with what I've got. So what I really want to do is I want to get a start time down. But before you're allowed to do a start time, you've got to decide on a duration of the event. Now, this doesn't necessarily hold you to that. This is for scheduling only. This is not going to drive billing. This is just to stake out a spot on the calendar for a certain period of time. So you'll see if I try to click into, say, an 8:30 start, then what happens is the program kicks the focus up to the duration field. I've got to tell it how long I want this event to be. So let's just go ahead and propose that this is going to be 6 hours. You can do fractions of an hour in quarters. So I could do 6.25, 6.5, and so on. So once I have decided on a duration, now when I click into the cell, now it drops a timeline down for the duration that I specified at the start time that I specified. And then if I wish to press forward and do more information, let's do 1 truck and 2 men. Now this weight field here, if the shipment has a weight on it, an estimated weight or a weight ticket weight that's been entered on the home screen, then that's going to be used on the schedule. But it's also possible that you might have a shipment that's being handled over more than 1 day. So for instance, if I'm packing 16,000 pounds, I might have 2 days of packing. And so if I wish to put in a different value for a given event day, so I could say 8,000 pounds on Wednesday, 8,000 pounds on Thursday, and then on the schedule, it's going to show that. It'll still show that the total weight of the shipment is 16, but it won't show me that I'm loading 16,000 pounds each day or packing 16,000 pounds each day. So that's all I've got to do. In this case, I don't really care about the weight too much. This is a local move. So I'm just going to go ahead and say save. So now I've done that. Now the rest of these fields are populated. I've got a time, I've got a duration, I've got the number of pieces of equipment, I've got the number of men that I'm going to want to have. And so that level of it has been completed. Now if we go back to the all events view, you'll see now that I'm seeing both events. I'm seeing that packing event. I'm also seeing the local move event. This has no resources assigned. So let's fix that. Now in this case, I'm going to double click into this event here, which will take me into the event editor. So I'm sitting on job timelines. You can see there's another job on this day, Sandy Summers, that doesn't have an event set just on the day, just staking out a spot on the day. And then the one that's highlighted in dark blue, Dave Smith, that's the job I'm working on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the resources view, and I'm going to go to the worker resources, and I'm going to pick a couple resources. Now I've got this event set to start at 8:30. So if I try to click a resource, say at 10 o'clock, it won't let me. You can see what happens when I let go of the mouse is it kicks me to the 8:30 spot, and that's because that's the time that this event is scheduled for. Now, as a side, it's worth noting that the notification system can have lead time built into it. So if you've got 45-minute lead time or 1 hour lead time built into your notification system, then what will happen is the workers or whoever's on the receiving end of the notification will get a notification that includes that offset. So if I've got a 1 hour offset and I set an 8:30 work event, then the notification is going to say 7:30. Which means presumably get to the office by 7:30. So I'm going to go ahead and click into John Adams as my driver. Tom Jones is going to be his helper. And then I'm going to go to the Equipment Resources tab. We're doing local move. I'm going to click into 8:30 for straight truck 1. You can see that it's adding what I've got up here. Now if I look at this and I want to take one of these off, so for instance if I went back to the Worker Resource tab, I could take Tom Jones off by clicking on that event, and then I could turn around and say, pick Charlie Brown, and then it would substitute him. So there's other ways to do resource reassignment. We're going to look at that from the main scheduling screen, but this is how to do it from within a given individual job record. So at this point, we're set. We've got a start time, a duration, 1 truck, 2 workers. I've got these 2 guys assigned. I got that piece of equipment assigned. If there were other things going on this day, I'd be able to see it. So I'm happy with that, and I'm going to go ahead and save. And then once I do that, it brings me back to the all events view, and you can see now that local move is populated with the workers and the equipment that we put on it, and so therefore we're good to go. So while assigning work events from within a job record is fine, it deprives you of the big picture view. and it doesn't let you have the same scope of vision that using the scheduling system does. So let's take a look at what is really the better way to do it, and that's from within scheduling. So I'm going to click on the work menu, and I'm going to click on scheduling, and as always I'm going to make this larger, and then we're going to start taking a look at our day here. If you see, there's the local move that we set up with that packing for this day. But if you look right above it, we've got this Sandy Summers job, which right now has no resources assigned. You can see that. It also doesn't have a start time set. It does have a duration. So let's take a look at how we might want to resolve that. So when I'm looking at this view here, it shows me the jobs that I've got on the books. If I go job timelines, you can see there is no timeline for Sandy because we haven't picked that information. If I go to the worker day, it's the same thing. You can see on the worker day that these two workers are working on the Smith shipment. Let's go ahead and turn the hover preview off. And so if I toggle these buttons, if I say show me everybody who's busy, show me everybody who's free, or show me everybody, then that will give me the view I originally did. I could also say maybe I just want to focus on dispatching my drivers. So if I pick driver, then I get just the people who are in that classification, or the same thing with the other worker types, or I can go back to all and now I see everybody. So let's take a look at how we close the gap here now and assign this shipment. The critical part of this is to either be on the worker day or the equipment day button up at the top, and then to go to this job list button down here in the lower left. Because what that gives us is the split screen for drag and drop. So I'm going to click on job list and it opens up another frame. And so on the left here, I've got the job events list. This is basically my pick list. And then on the right hand side, I'm still in the worker day. And so that's what I'm looking at over here. So the job event list has, as you can see, a variety of filtration functions. We can do a date range, we can mess with the statuses, we can control the sort order. There's a lot of things going on there. In addition to that, if I go to the Schedule Tools button, there's actually a bunch of other things going on here too. I could zero in on certain work event types. I could go to a geographic look if I'm doing long-haul trip planning. I could stake out different regions of the country for origin or destination. I could also zero in on individual customer accounts if that was important to me. So we're not going to worry about any of that stuff. We're just going to be happy with what we've got in front of us right now. What we need to do is we need to get this event with resources assigned. So you can see right on the one that's above it that it shows the assigned resources right there. And so what I'm interested in is I'm interested in getting the same thing filled out for that Sandy Summers job. So the way we do that is first we click into this box, and you do have to click and let go so that the blue border is established. And then we're going to click again and drag and drop onto a worker or onto a spot on the timeline. And then it's going to give us a dialog to allow us to complete the effort. So if I take the packing event and drag it, and you can see that the mouse has got that plus sign on it, it means it's loaded. And so if I go to Walter O'Reilly and let go, then it's going to pop up with a confirm event assignment dialog. And so if I drag this away, you can get a little better look at what it's thinking. It will align itself with the position. So what has happened is this event does not have yet a start time assigned. If you look at the Dave Smith job, you can see it says 8 o'clock. If you look at the Sandy Summers job, you can see that there's nothing there. It's blank. And so because it's blank and it wants to help me get the job done, it has made 8 o'clock as the default, the start time for this event. And if you look at it even more closely, you realize that there's two things that are new. One is there's a new schedule resource being assigned. The other is there a new time. That's why those two captions are in red, because those are what we're proposing to change with this action. Now there's other possibilities. I'm going to go ahead and say cancel on this, and I'm going to do something else. What I did the last time was I dropped it on Walter O'Reilly. If instead I drag and drop it on a particular time on Walter O'Reilly and let go, then what it does is it accepts that as the start time because that's where I dropped it. That's the cell that I dropped it into. That's the 7 o'clock cell right there. So it knows what I'm trying to do, and it goes ahead and offers me that. Now, in addition to that, at this point, I could actually change the duration. If you have no duration, it'll just default to an hour. It's got to do something. But if I actually wanted to, if I wanted to say turn this into 7 hours, it would let me do it on the fly. Now, I can only do that with the first resource I'm assigning. Anybody else I assign is going to get attached to the same event, which is now set for 7 hours. So let's say that we're happy with that, and we're going to say OK, and it drops it on there, and then it refreshes. There we go. So we've got 7 o'clock. You can see now that our man count goes for one man up until 7. At 8 o'clock in the morning, it kicks to 3, because of course that's the accumulation of these two jobs. So now let's do somebody else. Let's drag this event and drop it on Tom Jones, the helper, and it's going to offer it to me, and I could say OK. But there's something else I could do. I'm going to say cancel here. I could actually take this event and drag it and drop it on that guy. And then I've got a slightly different dialog that comes up, because it says add resource or replace resource if I do that. So what it's concerned about is that I might be trying to switch a guy. And so that's where the drag and drop within the worker day grid allows me to do. In this case, I don't want to replace, I do want to add. So I'm going to hit the add resource button, and now I've got 2 guys on there, and you can see that over there. Then I can go to the equipment day, I can grab this event. Gosh, it'd be nice if I had another pack van free, but I don't. So I'm going to go ahead and do straight truck 1. If I just drop it on straight truck 1, it's going to drop it in at 7 o'clock because that's the assigned time. And I'm going to say OK. And so now I've got a fully assigned work event. The final piece of the puzzle here is that once I have done this assignment and I'm done with it, I'm going to want to toggle the schedule status to drive notifications. So if I am happy with this assignment, then what I can do is I can go to this combo, pull it down, put it on dispatched, and if the notification system is enabled, then this is the point at which notifications will be pushed out. So that allows you to sandbox your day. You could move guys around all you want, and it doesn't send out conflicting notifications. It waits until you switch to the status that's going to drive the notification, which normally is dispatched, although that's configurable. So I'm just going to say OK there, and then now the notification system kicks into action, starts pumping out calendar event emails or text messages or both, and then so everybody finds out what their job is for the day. A couple other things of interest. You can see there's a little map pointer icons. If I click on that, it will open up a Google map for that event. And if I've got a multi-stop day for somebody, maybe I'm doing a white goods delivery or something, and they're making 12 stops in a day. If I've stacked them all up end to end on the timeline, then when I hit that button, it's going to launch Google Maps. It's going to show a trip map for the duration of that day. Otherwise, I'm welcome to browse around this. If I close the job event list and go to job timelines, now I have that timeline view. If I go to worker day, I can toggle through the levels of detail. Now the sort order starts to make more sense in worker view, because if I do that, it gathers these 2 shipments together because it's the same, or these 2 worker assignments together because it's the same shipment, and it parks these 2 next to each other again. It'll always put your higher priority resource first, so the driver's first in the list. That's covered in the how to set up worker resources video. And then you can see for the next shipment, same thing, drivers listed first, helpers listed below. If there are multiple resources in the same classification, then they will be done alphabetically. So now if I were to go to the equipment day, I get exactly the same thing. But then if I go to the job week, I've got the same situation. I can toggle between my levels of detail. You can see in the highest level of detail, it shows all the resources, no matter how many there are, as well as address information and all the rest. So now let's take a look at a few additional ancillary functions. The first thing we're going to look at is the idea of work event memos. So if I open up this Dave Smith shipment, you can see there's a button down here that says Event Memos. I'm sitting here on the pack event. When I hit the Event Memos button, it shows me the work event memos that are associated with this event. It's actually showing me 2 things, because that gate code is an all event memo, meaning that if I go to the Dave Smith shipment on the move day and look at it, or just highlight the move day and go to the event memos, then I'm going to get that gate code, as well as any memos that might be associated just with the local move event. So let's dive a little deeper and see what that means. So I'm going to say open job. When I go to the job record and I go to the memos area, you can see we've got two memos. We've got a work event memo right there that's associated with the packing event. And we have an all event memo that's going to show up on the dispatch ticket or the work order for every job, and that's the one that includes the gate code. So that works by when you click on work event memo, you have the individual events for the job, whatever they are, but then up at the top you have the all events memo. So if I pick that and I make the memo, then it's going to show for every day regardless. So obviously the classic example of that is the gate code. But there's another kind of memo that's sort of a supervisory memo or a heads up memo, and that's available a couple places. If I go to the all events view, I've got a box up here, and this is actually called the schedule note. So suppose this person is a very important VIP and we just want to make sure that we don't mess this job up. So I'm going to say super VIP, do a great job. So now when I save this record and then I look at the detail of it, you can see that here in the preview field is a box that says schedule note. Now I could do it the way I just did by opening up the job and going to the all events view and doing it, but I could also edit that right here and then click the save button. And then so that's a note that's going to thrust itself in my point of view whenever I look at the job preview. And also if I go to the job timelines and I bring up the job list, we're going to see exactly the same thing. It's going to highlight it right here. In fact, there's another VIP function, and that is you can open up the record, and right below the shipper name is a little checkbox that says priority shipper. Now, I realize everyone's a VIP, but I guess some IPs are more V than others, aren't they? And so if we check that box, then what happens is the shipper name turns into a bright blue color everywhere throughout the scheduling system. So if you truly do have a big cheese that you're moving, it's a military job and it's a 3-star general or something, it would be very nice to know that this job requires special attention, and so that's what that function is for. All right, the other thing we have to be concerned with is the possibility that one of our resources might not be available to us. So if we go to the worker day and we look at Sam Smith, the driver down here, suppose he's not going to be available for this day. He's got a vacation day, he's got DMV responsibilities, something like that. That's handled under schedule tools. So I'm going to click on schedule tools. If I go to resources, then I'm interested in availability mode. So availability mode is resource availability mode. So what I want to do is put myself in availability mode, and then I want to decide what my availability caption is going to be. The default is out of service. There's a variety of other ones. But if I wanted to, I could actually make a custom description. So suppose I were to just say DMV appointment, and then I don't want to do the whole day because the whole day is the default. Suppose it's only going to be 2 hours. So now once I've done that, now if I were to click, say, into Sam Smith at 8 o'clock in the morning, then what I get is I get a gray resource assignment event for the duration that says DMV appointment. So then that you can see that shifts it into timeline order, but then that prevents me from assigning that. So if somebody's gone for the whole day or part of the day, they got an afternoon appointment, something like that, it anchors it on the schedule, prevents me from dropping a resource on top of it or a work event on top of it, and just also serves, of course, as a general notification for everybody that this person's going to be out during that time. Now, another thing I might want to do is reassign a resource. So, for example, suppose I'm looking at this schedule and I want to rearrange the day. Maybe I'm going to take somebody off the job. I showed you the drag and drop reassigning before, but there's also another function. If I want to remove somebody, I can click and drag and go down to the trash can and drop there. And so what it's asking me is, what do I want? Do I want to delete this individual resource assignment, or am I trying to delete all resource assignments? Meaning, has this job canceled, basically, or is it at least coming completely off this day? There is a function to void jobs off of the file menu inside a job record that will clean out all work events and clean out all resource assignments, but we're talking here about just a specific assignment for a specific work event. So I'll go ahead and say cancel. I don't necessarily want to do that, but that option is available to me. So as you can see, there's a wide variety of functions here to help you with your scheduling and dispatch and to give you both the power and the flexibility to do what needs to be done. One last thing to look at is the fact that we are logging all of this activity. So if I were to open up a job record and I were to go to the memo area and I were to click on work event memos, then the assignment, the reassignment, if I remove somebody, if I changed a time, I changed a start date or something like that, then all of that stuff would have been logged there. And so that's obviously potentially very valuable information. It's always good to know how we got here. Okay, that's probably enough for this right now. There are other, even more advanced scheduling functions, some of which will be discussed in future videos, no doubt. But if you're working this and you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call our office. We're always happy to help, and thanks for watching.